All right, so get ready, Pennsylvania drivers, because some pretty big changes are coming to the PA Turnpike.
Yeah, big changes.
Remember those toll booths that always seem to slow you down?
Yeah,
Well, get ready to say goodbye to them, because in 2025, they're going the way of the dinosaurs.
that's right. We're talking about the switch to open road tolling, or T for short. You'll be cruising through at highway speeds.
No more stopping?
No more stopping, no more fumbling for Easy Pass, or
Oh, yeah.
heaven forbid, digging for change.
I've seen these systems in other states with those big overhead gantries.
Ah,
Is that what we're getting in Pennsylvania?
exactly. Those gantries have sensors that can actually classify your vehicle.
Wow.
Car, truck, motorcycle, just by its size and the number of axles.
Really?
Yeah.
They can tell what kind of vehicle it is just by
It's surprisingly sophisticated.
the size.
Yeah, no more relying on weight like the old days.
So if you have Easy Pass, you just zoom on through and the system does its thing.
Seamlessly. Your transponder gets read, your account gets charged, and you're on your way. But for those who haven't hopped on the Easy Pass train yet, there's the toll-by-plate system.
Right. Those high-definition cameras on the gantries snap a picture of your license plate and then send an invoice to the registered owner.
That's right.
But I've heard toll-by-plate can be a bit pricier.
It is.
That's true.
The Turnpike says it's because of the added processing costs dealing with all those license plates and mailing out invoices. Think of Easy Pass as the express lane, both for speed and cost savings.
So there's a financial incentive to get with the program.
For sure.
But let's be real. Some people are probably thinking, hold on, license plate pics tracking my movements. What about my privacy?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Any system that collects data like this raises questions about how it's being used and protected. The Turnpike assures us that all that information, your license plate location, time of travel, goes to their secure customer service center and is only used for processing payments. They insist it's not being shared or used for any other purpose.
But history has shown us that even the most secure systems can be vulnerable.
Right.
What happens if policies change down the line?
Yeah.
Or what if there's a data breach?
Sure.
It's not unreasonable to think about these scenarios.
You're absolutely right. Those are important questions, and that's precisely why we're diving into this topic. It's crucial for Pennsylvania drivers to be aware of these potential privacy implications as we move towards this new system.
Okay, so we've talked about how this new technology works and touched on some of those initial privacy concerns.
Right.
But the Turnpike is also touting some pretty significant benefits, right?
They are.
Things like improved safety and reduced congestion.
And some of their arguments are compelling. Think about it. Fewer toll booths means less sudden braking and lane changes, which could potentially lead to fewer accidents and smoother traffic flow.
I can definitely see how that could be a positive outcome, especially during those peak travel times when everyone's trying to get through the tolls as quickly as possible.
Right? And less stop-and-go traffic also means less idling, which is good news for the environment. The Turnpike estimates that ORT will save them about $25 million a year in operational costs.
Now, that's a significant chunk of change. It makes you wonder how that savings breaks down. Are we talking about reduced staffing, costs less maintenance on those toll plazas? And what could that money be used for instead?
Those are all great questions. It would be interesting to see a more detailed breakdown of those projected savings and how they might be reinvested back into the Turnpike system or even potentially benefit drivers.
Okay, so there are potential positives and negatives to consider as we make this transition to open road tolling. It's definitely not a simple issue.
Absolutely not. And I think the most important takeaway for our listeners right now is just to be aware that these changes are coming and to start thinking about how they might impact your own travel habits and your perspective on privacy.
Right, because understanding how the system works and the potential trade-offs is the first step to making informed choices.
Exactly. And we'll be diving deeper into some of those choices, including some practical steps you can take in the next part of our deep dive.
All right.
So stay tuned.
So we've established that this new open road tolling system comes with some serious privacy implications. It's not just about those license plate photos. It's the idea that our movements are being tracked and recorded every time we travel on the Turnpike.
And it's not just a one-time snapshot either. Each gantry you pass under adds another data point to the record, essentially creating a digital trail of your journey. That's what's raising eyebrows for a lot of folks.
Right, because even if the Turnpike is only using that data for toll collection right now, who's to say how it might be used in the future? Policies can change, new technologies emerge, and suddenly that seemingly harmless data can become a lot more revealing.
That's the concept of mission creep, and it's a legitimate concern in the world of data privacy. What starts as one thing can easily morph into something else down the line. It's like giving someone your phone number for one specific reason, and then suddenly you're bombarded with calls from telemarketers. It's not what you signed up for.
Exactly. And with this ORT system, we're essentially handing over a pretty detailed record of our travel patterns to the Turnpike. So what kind of safeguards are in place to prevent this data from being misused either by the Turnpike itself or by third parties?
Well, the Turnpike's privacy policy states that they only use the data for toll collection and that it's securely stored. But as we've discussed, those policies aren't set in stone, and security breaches, unfortunately, do happen. It's a risk that drivers need to weigh.
Okay, so let's talk about that risk. What are some potential worst-case scenarios? What could happen if this data falls into the wrong hands?
One concern is that law enforcement could potentially access this data without a warrant, using it to track individuals or investigate crimes. We've seen this happen with other types of location data, so it's not a far-fetched possibility.
That's pretty unsettling to think about. And what about private companies? Could they somehow get their hands on this data and use it for marketing purposes? I can already imagine getting targeted ads based on my Turnpike travel history.
It's not implausible. Data is a valuable commodity, and there's always a risk of it being sold or shared, even if it's done anonymously. And even anonymized data can often be de-anonymized with enough effort.
So it sounds like we're putting a lot of trust in the Turnpike to handle this data responsibly. But what about those of us who aren't comfortable with that level of trust? Are there any alternatives?
Unfortunately, not really. Once the Turnpike goes fully cashless in 2025, you'll either have to use EasyPass or rely on the toll-by-plate system. Some folks have talked about using license plate covers or privacy screens, but the legality and effectiveness of those are still up for debate.
So it seems like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Convenience versus privacy. It's a tough choice, and it's one that every Pennsylvania driver is going to have to make for themselves.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that's why it's so important to have all the information to understand the potential risks and benefits so you can make an informed decision.
Right, because this isn't just about tolls anymore. It's about our data, our privacy, and our control over that information.
Exactly. And as technology continues to advance, these issues are only going to become more prevalent. We need to be having these conversations, asking tough questions, and advocating for policies that protect our rights.
Okay, so we've explored the potential downsides, the what-ifs of this new system.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about what Pennsylvania drivers can actually do to prepare for this transition to open road tolling.
Oh.
What are some practical steps we can take? Okay, so let's get down to like brass tacks.
Yeah.
Open road tolling is coming to the Pennsylvania Turnpike in 2025, and we've talked about both the good and the maybe not so good. What can our listeners do to prepare for this shift?
Well, first things first, a little bit of knowledge can go a long way. The Pennsylvania Turnpike actually has a pretty cool interactive map on their website that shows the locations of all the gantries that'll be going up.
So we're not just talking about toll plazas being replaced here. We're talking a whole new network of these gantries spread out along the Turnpike.
Precisely. And checking out that map can give you a much better sense of where those gantries will be on your regular routes, how often you might be passing under them, and what kind of charges to expect.
It's one thing to hear about these changes in the abstract, but seeing it visually mapped out along your commute, that can really bring it home.
Absolutely. And speaking of bringing it home, if you don't already have an Easy Pass, now might be the time to seriously consider getting one.
Okay, I'm going to push back a bit here.
Yeah.
Earlier, we talked about how even Easy Pass involves data collection.
Yeah.
So how does getting an Easy Pass actually help with the privacy concerns we've been discussing?
You're right to question that. It's not a perfect solution. But with Easy Pass, the system primarily relies on your transponder for identification and payment. That means they're less likely to need to capture your license plate image, which is a small but potentially significant step for privacy-conscious drivers.
It's about minimizing your digital footprint.
Yeah.
Right? Less data being collected, less potential for misuse.
Exactly. Now, another practical step you can take is to familiarize yourself with the Turnpike's privacy policy.
Oh, boy.
I know reading privacy policies is about as exciting as watching paint dry, but it's worth taking the time to understand what they're saying about data collection, retention, and sharing.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Right.
If you're going to be using this system, you might as well know what you're signing up for.
Absolutely.
Right.
And beyond those steps, the best thing you can do is stay informed. Keep an eye on news and updates from the Turnpike. They'll likely be releasing more information as we get closer to the 2025 rollout.
And don't be afraid to contact your elected officials if you have concerns about privacy or want to advocate for stronger protections. This is a major change to our transportation infrastructure, and it's important for people to make their voices heard.
You've got it. This isn't just a Pennsylvania issue either. Open road tolling is becoming more and more common across the country, so these privacy concerns are relevant to drivers everywhere.
All right, so as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of open road tolling, let's leave our listeners with one final thought. We've talked about convenience, potential benefits, and those very real privacy concerns. At the end of the day, the question is, how do you feel about the trade-off between convenience and privacy in this new system? Is it worth it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's
Yeah,
no easy answer, and every driver will have to weigh those factors and make a decision that feels right for them.
exactly. And as you're mulling that over, we encourage you to check out that interactive gantry map we mentioned earlier. Visualizing how these changes will impact your own travel patterns can really help you make a more informed choice.
We hope this deep dive has given you the information and insights you need to navigate this new world of open road tolling. Stay curious, stay informed, and as always, thanks for joining us.